Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, James Anderson, and we are brought to you by Prize Picks. Use the promo code ROTOPOD for a 100% deposit match over at Prize Picks. My guest today is Andrew Geller, the Gildz, very well-known high-stakes player and fun guy to chat with this time of year. Didn't get to see Andrew in Vegas this year, but maybe we'll see each other next year. And we're going to talk about some stuff that's gone wrong this year, mostly, I think. And a lot of just decisions that we kind of wish we could do over. Some guys that we're dealing with who are injured, some guys that we, maybe dropped or wish we'd picked up or wish we had more shares of. So not going to be like a victory lap type of pod, but kind of the opposite of that. But Andrew, thanks for joining me. I really wanted to start here with just kind of which injured guys are you currently stashing right now in your high stakes NFBC leagues?
Yeah, first off, James, always appreciate you having me on. It's always good talking to you. Francisco Alvarez, I'm definitely stashing him where I have him. I got a decent amount. We were just talking before the pod. It's like the catcher position was so deep, we all thought early on and in draft season, and a few injuries later, and some guys underperforming, it's like it's not too deep anymore. So I saw the timeline, 6 to 8 weeks. Hoping to get half a season out of him. And, that's a guy, I think that can beat that. Whatever his timeline is, I think he'll be at the top of that, or at least, if he can get back and play, this kid's a gamer, he's going to be in there. So, and plus I don't have a lot of FAAB in my league. So that's not a guy that I'm going to be able to get back, when he does, come back from the injury. So kind of, you're a little hamstrung if you're low on FAAB, and I don't mind stashing guys either.
So where you're stashing Francisco Alvarez, and I'm doing so as well. I've got a lot of Alvarez. I don't know who's got more out of you and me, but so for like the leagues where you're stashing Alvarez, what did you do this past weekend? Are you rostering 3 catchers right now?
Yep, I'm rostering. I know that's like a cardinal sin in fantasy, but I think the whole stashing angle is kind of overplayed, to be honest. I mean, yeah, if your team is that banged up and you're looking at, 5-6 hurt guys on your bench, okay, that's one thing. But, if your team's relatively healthy, you maybe got 1 injured guy on there, maybe even 2, like, I'm fine stashing guys, until I have to let them go, So, I picked up Danny Jansen in a couple spots, Kirk, who maybe we'll touch on later, who's been a disaster. But, just guys that can kind of plug and play. And, until my team isn't healthy enough to roster him, I'm going to keep him on bench. So,
yeah, I mean, I think you got to keep rostering him. The way that I kind of approach the stashes is, there's some guys that are just obvious cuts. Like I've cut Noelvi Marte, on Moncada, and Garrett Mitchell are just the 3 guys I could find that I have cut due to absences in FAAB leagues. But I think with Alvarez, just the way that I kind of play the game, like I'm going to keep stashing him until I can't stash him anymore,
Yeah, and I mean, it's a catcher position, it's like, he can be a difference maker, I think. I know he got off to a rough start. I mean, I saw people saying in 15s to drop. I mean, there was no way I was ever dropping him in the main event. I'll make do until he comes back, but it's so thin there. I mean, I had to pick up Rortwert on Tampa for this week. I'm just going to rotate in and out weekly. Whoever the catcher that won't kill you for a week, kind of just plug and play until Alvarez is back. But until I hear there's another setback, or they extend him out until like August or something, and there's more news that comes down, I'm just going to hold him until then.
That's interesting because I went and looked it up. I've got Alvarez in both of my solo main event leagues and one of my 2 solo online championship leagues. And I I was able to add Miguel Amaya, Connor Wong, and Patrick Bailey.
Yeah,
and I thought those were solid. And I thought those were in each specific league. I thought there was kind of a clear drop off. Like I thought those guys were above the drop off, and I actually bid like I think $20 to $30 to get those three guys. And my hope is to just sort of ride those three in those leagues, unless they just are tanking things, and then I would switch to streaming. But was it kind of you didn't see anyone out there that you thought was worth kind of going with for a few weeks, or just that's not how you play that section of the catcher market?
Yeah, I mean, I went into the season, put an emphasis on drafting two of those like top 15 catchers, like in every league. And I thought I did a good job doing that. I have a lot of Yainer Diaz. He's my most owned catcher, which is working out awesome. He's been great. But I wanted to really make a point to get two solid catchers, because I think people that were sleeping on these late round Rene Pinto types, you're behind the eight ball. And I especially this year with it being so deep early on, I just didn't see the reason why you would be fading guys going around like 150, 160. Like Salvador Perez, I have a lot of. He was going so late in drafts. I mean, I couldn't believe it. So I think him and Diaz are my two highest owned catchers. But yeah, no, I just think, especially in these 12 team and 15, obviously the 15 teamers, you want to have two strong catchers if you can. Obviously, it's easier said than done. But yeah, I mean, in 15 teamers, I just can't drop. If you get a half a season in Alvarez and he comes back and he's, he's the guy we saw last year, the average might still hurt you, but, we'll see what happens. I mean, he could hit 15 homers in half a season. So, yeah, that's what I'm playing for right now. Just stash and cash. That's how I'm rolling.
Yeah, I think that was the way to go too. I think going with two strong catchers. I mean, turns out you got to pick the right guys and get a little lucky with injury luck. Like I could tell already back in February that I wasn't going to have as good an injury luck this year as I did last year. And that's just kept going from there. But yeah, I think the idea of Alvarez is a guy that could lead the position in home runs. And, I guess with that specific injury, there might be a concern about whether he can just be that guy as soon as he comes back.
Yeah.
Anything to do with like the hand or the wrist, you're always a little worried about, or, shoulder. Obviously.
Yeah, that's definitely a concern. Absolutely. Again, it's his non-throwing hand. I don't know if that matters too much, but I mean, it could definitely affect him. I mean, it's better than a wrist, right? And I don't know. I feel like in the past, we always get scared of these hand injuries, and then guys come back and they're just mashing. Remember Matt Olson a couple of years ago? He had the hamate bone injury, and nobody was like touching him, and then he comes back and he's just mashing right away. So I mean, I don't know. This kid, to me, he's the kind of guy that I think, if he's healthy and ready to go, it shouldn't affect him too much. And I saw that some of the Twitter doctors saying too is, you got to take that with a grain of salt, but they say, long-term impact, even this year, when he comes back, they don't see much decrease in performance. Maybe a little bit right away, but it's nothing that, once he's good to go, he should be fine. So.
Yeah. And I'm also stashing Kyber Ruiz. That's kind of a less of a stash because he's just probably had COVID or something like that. And then Casas was a big one. Like I had Perez and Casas on at least two teams together. And, I guess like from a week ago when they both got injured, I was kind of banking on around 55 homers from those two guys the rest of the way,
Yeah. That's a rough one.
That's tough. Do you have Casas anywhere?
So, it's funny. I have him. I have one share, and it's on my main, my CLQ main, which is my best main right now, which is funny because nice. I started that main off. I had Strider, my first pick, and then my second pitcher was Shane Bieber.
Wow. And
then I just lost Casas also. So somehow that team is still, doing pretty well. But it's funny if those, if I didn't suffer those injuries. And it's my best main, which goes to show you that, one injury can't kill you. 2 injuries really can't kill you. But I did hit on some pitchers in the back end. I got Hicks there, Sevy, Cutter Crawford. So you got to make those picks later on, and otherwise you're not going to survive.
Yeah, and the other thing that I think it's something you got to kind of fight as well. If you've got one of those teams where you feel like you're kind of cursed by the injuries. Sometimes that can lead you to make sort of unforced errors with, a streamer, or just getting carried away in FAAB because you think you just have to make it all back up with the perfect FAAB purchase the very next week, So it's like a mental game, you got to really just kind of keep grinding and not get too high or too low, which is so hard. It's so hard this time.
Yeah, it is. And we're all like slaves to the standings, right? We're all checking out our teams doing well and teams not doing well also. So it's early. It's early, but I always say, James, too, it's early until it isn't. So I like getting off to strong starts. In previous years, my big teams were pretty much strong from the get-go. So obviously you want to start off strong if you can, not to say that you can't make moves, and shoot up the boards, but there is a point in the season where, there's no return. We're not there yet for sure, but another month, 6 weeks, you're going to see, the standings start to solidify a little more, and the ratios are going to be solidified a little more. So you'll know probably early June, mid-June if you had a contender, and those are the teams you want to put a lot of focus on.
So what did the Twitter doctors say about a fractured rib? Is that something where you hold him, or are you dropping him?
I mean, I have him in the main. I do have Turner as a backup there. I picked up Schonel on the Anaheim, Los Angeles Angels, whatever. But I'm holding him until I hear more. I mean, the main, it's so hard to drop guys like this in the main, right? You just got to hope that they beat their recovery timetable and, just hold and keep an eye on the news, and, hopefully there's no setbacks. But, in the mains, I'm holding, in the 12s, depending on how long he's out for. If it's 2 months, I could see him being on some waiver wires there.
So I have picked up like my two biggest FAAB pickups of the season. Were both injured pitchers that another team dropped. My biggest FAAB bid in a main event league is actually like $60 on Shane Baz. And then my biggest bid in an OC was $150 on Kyle Bradish.
Okay. You're confident in him coming back and being – I know he was struggling a little bit in his rehab starts, right? But
confidence, definitely not the right word.
Optimistic? I don't know. Yeah.
I just think I thought it was a calculated gamble. I think he's got top 15, top 20 SP upside, and maybe it won't work out, but the types of guys that you're adding, sometimes you get a gift in those OCs and someone drops someone that they just shouldn't have dropped.
Yep.
And then you can feel really confident, like, what this guy's going to do. But for the most part, I mean, all these big bids there's some level of risk, right?
Yeah. And it's funny because you do see, you could definitely tell an OC from a main just by, like you were saying, the guys who are dropped, like, you see Luis Robert available in a ton of OCs. I mean, he might have been out there in a couple mains, if that, but it's just like they're, these in the 12 teamer, it's just a different game. So you can kind of just turn and burn a lot easier there, where in the mains you got to be leery of dropping some of these guys. If they miss 6 weeks, you're still going to get 3.5, 4 months out of them, right? So yeah, it's a fine line you're walking.
And I think, it kind of depends sort of how you play too. Like if you are just dropping 3 or 4 guys every single week just to play the matchups, then it becomes harder to be stashing these guys. But, for me, I might be doing that in, maybe one offensive spot I'm kind of churning, and then maybe 1 or 2 pitcher spots I'm kind of churning. But
Yeah. And I heard you say you have your highest bid was $60 in the main. That's not bad.
Yeah. Is that good? That crazy?
That is kind of crazy. I mean, I think I spent $400 on or $3 something on the first wire and all the main.
Okay. That was one of the questions. So tell me about your biggest bids.
So it's hold on.
Yeah, you can go. You can go. The Gildz dog is trying to get onto the pod. Don't blame him. But yeah, I guess $60 on Shane Baz. I think that's the most.
I had to bribe the dog.
Yeah,
Jason Foley. So
yeah,
I think I have 14 FAAB leagues, and I have him, I think, on 11 of the 14. So I just went all in on almost every team. I just like what I saw, early on, obviously, and we know Alex Lang. I owned him last year, and I'm like, it won't take much for Foley to secure that job, and sure enough, he's been insane. He's been perfect pretty much since then. So, and I got a weird feeling about the closer market early on. So I wasn't playing around. I just wanted to get that closer who I thought, has the skills to keep the job all year and get you 35 saves. To me, that's well worth, 30-40% of my budget. So that's a guy I went after, huge across all leagues.
Now, did you go in with sort of one high-end closer and then cheap at the second closer spot in most leagues?
Yeah, that's pretty much my style. I usually try to grab one. I have a lot of Edwin Diaz, so nice. That's looking good so far. I always try to grab one of those, the early top 7 or 8 guys. I had a lot of Duran too, so that's also why I have a lot of Foley right now.
Yeah.
I just don't, you don't want to fall too far, behind in saves. So, once I started suffering, I had Devin Williams on a couple teams. So once I started suffering these injuries, I'm like, screw it. I saw this Foley come in and take that job, and I'm like, I'm going to get him. And some of the runner-up bids were like half of what I bid. So it was funny to see. So with all the efficient bid Twitter screenshots, I overspent by like 200 probably across the board.
Yeah. I saw the closers. Like I knew that those guys deserve to go for a lot of money. Foley, I liked him too. But I, on most teams, either had 2 good closers already, or I'm stashing Paul Sewald on a handful of teams, but I think he's going to be back in short order. So I feel like if you use 2, picks in the first 12 rounds on closers, then having your most expensive FAAB bid also be on a closer.
Yeah,
it's not optimal, but if I'd gone your way of one good closer and then some specs, I would have absolutely been in on the Foley bid.
Yeah, and a few of my specs were looking pretty ugly early on too. Had Will Smith in a couple spots. I dropped him as fast as I could. I mean, he's just awful. Yeah. Grabbed Hunter Harvey, thinking he'd be the guy, and he's been shaky of late. And it's Finnegan who's been like perfect. So
yeah.
I mean, I just got a little nervous, early on. And like I said, I mean, I think Foley, this guy could, score you 35, 40 saves if they keep, rolling him out there. So I like Detroit a lot. I like their offense, and, they're a pesky team. So I'm happy. I'm very happy I spent that early money on him. Now, the caveat to that is I'm out on pretty much any of these big names, your prospects that come up, I'll be watching from the sidelines for the most part. So that's kind of the risk you take. But, like I said, if Foley, turns into, a top 10 closer, to me, that's money that's well spent.
Yeah, I agree. I think if he stays healthy, I don't think you'll regret that. So are all your FAAB budgets just, they've got a big Jason Foley sized dent in them, or was there another guy that you went like?
There's a lot of Foley. Yeah. I mean, I did get Cowser in a couple spots where I went pretty damn big.
Right. I remember. I saw you tweeting about that. What was the freight there on Cowser for you?
So I think I spent like three and change on him.
Sure.
And that was on a Foley team too. So that FAAB bankroll is looking pretty bleak. I think I have like maybe 2 something on that team, which is, even for me, that's pretty low right now. But I would say across all teams, I'm around 300-400, which is, to me, is fine, you know. But like I said, I'm going to miss out on these huge names, and the Hunter Goodmans, who I just saw, got recalled. So I don't know, if he's going to be a huge bid. I don't know what your thoughts are there, but to me also, like I say it on all these pods, to me, the draft table is where I do my business. And if I draft solid teams, you know what I mean, I feel like I can maneuver my way around the FAAB wire with the $6 bids here, $7 bids there. So we'll just have to see.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, you're comfortable operating like this, where that you're kind of low on FAAB right now in your leagues, but like you're not. That doesn't make you uncomfortable.
Not at all.
And I'm with you in terms of like doing your business at the draft table. If you're going to have a good year, you're obviously going to make some really good pickups during the season. But you don't know which those are going to be necessarily. Like
right.
Sometimes the pickup that yields the most for you is like an $8 ad, when you're like a week early on a guy.
Look at Wallner Abreu this week. I got like 5 or 6 shares at him, and I'm thinking, okay, I felt like he was going to be like the top bat that people were going for everywhere. And I got him for, I don't know, $10-15 and like a bunch of spots. I'm like, this is the OC. You know what I mean? It's a different animal. So you can maneuver a lot better with a low bankroll in the OC versus the main. So it's just a different game.
That's frustrating because I had like $30 bids on Abreu in pretty much every league, and I didn't get him anywhere.
Yeah, it varies. I had one where I bid like, I think $10, and there was like no runner up, right? So then you go to the next league and you lose on the $60 bid. It's just that's the OC. It's like there's no rhyme or reason to it. You just got to hope you're in one of these leagues where people aren't paying attention, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. What would you have bid on Abreu in a main this past week?
If I had the funds, I would have won at least $70-$80 easy. Okay. And for the main, that's a pretty big bid on a bat, right? So I didn't get him in any main. But I did see some 40s for him, even 30s in some spots. So you could, even the mains, they vary from league to league. So it's interesting. What are your thoughts on Abreu? I know he's got a lot of swing and miss, but I mean, fantasy wise, a lot of upside.
I love it. Like he's not a perfect player by any means, but you got a guy that was hitting cleanup basically for the Red Sox leading up to FAAB, and he had already stolen 4 bases, even though he was just sucking.
Yeah.
So I loved it. And I don't mind, especially in the main event. I mean, I think he's playing kind of every day now, but especially in the main event, I don't mind having a strong side platoon guy. Because I'll probably have 2 or 3 of those guys, and then I'll just, whichever guy has the terrible matchups, I'll just bench.
And I think he had like a 20-30 year, right, in the minors last year. I was looking, or was it the year before?
He's had some impressive like power speed seasons. I've never thought of him as like a burner by any stretch.
2022. I'm looking. 1931 and 129 games. I mean, I like that profile. Yeah, I mean, those strike out a lot, and that's the thing. Batting average is going to be a risk there, but I mean, you're not buying him for the batting average, right? So, like you said, hitting the middle of that lineup, if he performs well, he's going to stay there all year, I think. So, I was very high on him on last week's wire.
So Abreu's got a 65th percentile sprint speed, but he, dating back to 2022, he's only been caught stealing 5 times. So it seems like he's just one of those guys that's really good at stealing bases, even though he doesn't necessarily have that type of speed. So I love the Abreu ad. I really regret not going more in the spots. I just kind of assumed I'd get him in like half the leagues and not in half the leagues, but I just didn't get him anywhere.
I mean, he could be, one of the better pickups all year, at least offensively. I mean, we'll see how this goes, but if he hits enough, I mean, you got to like, his spot and where he's hitting and the offense there. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited.
Any like FAAB regrets or any other like stash stuff you want to hit on, or move on?
Let's see. I'm not stashing too many guys. I mean, the pitchers I did on 1 million. I had Braxton Garrett and Cabrera, and then I have Gavin Williams there also. Which I don't know if you saw the news. He had a setback or more discomfort in his elbow, so he's likely to drop this weekend. But I mean, overall, I'm not stashing too many guys. I did have Romano on a couple teams too, so it was nice to see him come back, and he's been pretty good since he's back. So. I don't think anything too crazy at this point, at least.
All right. Well, let's head to a message from our sponsors. First, though, anyone who's watching on YouTube, please subscribe. It really helps us out, and give it a like. And then really pumped about our growing relationship with So Rare. That's really exciting. And the Discord, rotowire.com/chat, if you ever want to hang out on there. It's a good place to get a hold of me. Finally, baseball is back. This MLB season, knock it out of the park with vivid seats and score great tickets to the biggest games of the year. Every fastball, every home run, and every eye-popping play of your favorite team live and in person. Plus, with Vivid Seats rewards, you earn rewards with every single purchase. Just buy 10 tickets, then cash in your credit toward your free 11th ticket. Talk about an easy win. And here's a pro reward tip. When buying tickets for your whole group, split the bill and make progress towards your free 11th ticket even faster. From behind the dugout to upper deck, Vivid Seats has great tickets for all the 2024 games that matter to you. Just visit vividseats.com or download the app today. Vivid Seats. Experience it live. See vividseats.com/rewards for terms and conditions. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in more than 30 states across the country. Prize Picks is really simple to play. I can make my picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. If you're looking for Prize Picks, I like the under on Shea Gilgeous-Alexander scoring 29.5 points tonight against the Pelicans. I just think that's going to be a tall task with Herb Jones on him, and I think the Thunder can win without Shea Gilgeous-Alexander getting to 30. I also like the under on Joel Embiid scoring 32.5 points tomorrow against the Knicks. Just doesn't seem like he's going to have that in the tank. I worry about him getting injured mid-game in all these games, so going under on 32.5 points for Joel Embiid seems like a good way to go. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Download the app today and use code ROTOPOD for a first deposit match up to $100. That's promo code ROTOPOD for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, back with the Gildz here. And the title of this episode, at least on YouTube, is Take the L or Double Down. So I have some guys that at this point in time, like either fading them or drafting them is looking bad. But I want to kind of evaluate each guy and see whether I'll just take the L or whether I'm going to just ride it out. So Gildz, I've got Elly De La Cruz on a couple like keeper dynasty rosters, but I have Elly De La Cruz on 0 NFBC rosters this year. That's not very fun. Like, it'd be fun to have Elly De La Cruz on some teams this year.
Oh yeah, I'd say so. It's wild. We all knew there was pretty much 2 outcomes with them, right? It's, hitting that crazy top 5 ceiling or striking out a ton, not hitting. I don't think he was ever going to be sent down, but, 220, 210, 220 was in his range of outcomes also. So, I mean, it looks like he's hitting the higher end of that outcome. So, yeah. And I know we spoke before the pod a little bit where I was, debating him versus Frankie Lindor. By the way, Lindor, 2 homers today, 4 for 5. So, maybe my take is not going to be that crazy, but I had preferred Frankie over Elly in that second round of fantasy draft. So that's not looking too great right now, but I still think end of the year, you're going to see Lindor. For some reason, this guy cannot hit early on. I think I was looking back. I think he had it was 4 years with the Mets, his 4th year. He had like 1 month from April and May that was like above 250. Like he just a slow starter. So I think he's going to end the year, 250, 260, 25 homers, 80, 90 RBIs. I don't think he's going to hit that 30 steal mark again, but he's not going to be, just a bust all year. He's going to give you that value. It's just for whatever reason he can't start out of the gate hot. But Elly De La Cruz, I have him on the one main. But that's also the a main where I took Corbin Carroll. I actually posted that on Twitter today. But if you have Elly right now, you're self high-fiving for sure. He's amazing to watch.
So I think I went on Bubba's pod sometime during the preseason, I think, and he was like asking me about Elly, and my theory was he's going to hit like between 230 and 245. I didn't see him hitting like 200, 220 or anything like that. But I thought he would be up all year. I thought he'd be very productive with the counting stats. I just didn't want to take that type of batting average hit in that round of the draft. And I wasn't on Lindor either for the same reason, because I thought Lindor was going to hit like 250, and I just wanted a higher batting average there. But I don't even want to go back and look. I think I might have taken Rafael Devers over Elly in a draft. But yeah, I'm going to take the L on Elly. He's got a 381 BABIP. He's probably close to like a true talent, like 345 BABIP type of guy. I mean, he just hits the ball so hard. He's so fast. So I don't think he's going to hit 295, but I also don't think at this point that he's going to tank my batting average idea really holds any water anymore. So I'll take the L on Elly De La Cruz.
Yeah, same here. And I thought similar to you, where I thought he'd be fine enough, he'd be good enough to stay up all year, but I thought he'd be more 230, 240 hitter, but he would still give you those homers and steals. So even in the second round, that's still going to provide, I don't know, value there, but it's not going to hurt you, right? If he goes, 30 homers and 50 steals, I mean, that's probably still a good pick in the second round, at 240. So, it looks like he's going to, I mean, what does he got? He's got 7 homers and 12 steals on April 24th. So, I mean, what's the upside here? We're looking at 40, 70, I don't even know. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, yeah, he's going to just pray he stays healthy. That's all he can do right now.
And speaking of staying healthy, another candidate for me is I was vocal about fading Mike Trout. Now he's only hitting 240 right now, but he hasn't gotten injured. And the biggest thing to me is the strikeouts are way down, and he's already stolen as many bases in 24 games as he stole from 2021 through 2023. So, it's like maybe this guy just needs to be on terrible teams for him to kind of reach the peak of his powers, but maybe is he running because the team's so bad and like he doesn't see any real downside?
I mean, they're all running on the Angels, right? Rengifo stolen. I mean, he's got 7-8 steals right now already. Trout's got 5. I mean, they're running. So I mean, if Trout, if he gives you 15, 20 steal, 15 even, and stays healthy, I mean, he's going to be a top 5 value in the entire draft, right? I mean, he was going mid-late 80s in these mains, sometimes later. I think he fell to 100, I want to say, in one. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, yeah, no, I have him on a couple of big teams too. So I'm happy. Just he's healthy and running is just a bone. I mean, it's crazy. 5 steals. So.
Yeah. Did you think? Because I didn't think he was going to run just because of how injured he's been. Like I just thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I didn't think so. I mean, anyone that thought he would run, he has the. Let me see. When was the last time he had 5 stolen bases in the season? Even
2019.
2019. Wow. Yeah. So yeah, 2019. 5 seasons ago, he had 11 steals. He's totaled 5 stolen bases over the last 3 years combined. So anyone that tells you that they saw him running, I don't know. I think they're just, wish casting there. I mean, we'll see how we do. I mean, his batting average, is 237 right now. He's probably
it'll come up.
Yeah.
The big question here, it's great that he's cut the strikeouts. Like that's great. Best strikeout rate since 2020 for him. He'd been at like 28% basically for 3 straight years, and now he's at 22%. But I think when it's sort of double down or take the L, it's hard for me to take the L on a guy who the main reason I was fading was because of durability in mid-April or late April.
Right.
So I'm going to double down on that one. But I think it's definitely like, if you just told me he's going to attempt 5 steals in April, I don't know if he ends up on any of my teams, but I would not have been fading him or telling people to fade him. Right. So it's a complicated one, but the durability again, he played in 119 games in 2022.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was a concern, for everybody. It's just the health. So, I mean, if you told me he stole 5 bases all season and played 140 games, I would have,
Yeah. Well, if you just told me he played 140 games, I'm drafting him all day.
0 steals, I would have been fine where he was going. So the fact that he's healthy and he's running, I mean, he's going to be a huge bargain. Like I said, just knock on wood that he can stay healthy. But like you were saying, you never know. Tomorrow he could be hurt, or a month from now he's out for 4 to 6 weeks. You know what I mean? We haven't seen him healthy for a full season or even close to that in quite some time.
So the next guy on my list is Wyatt Langford. Although, so I took him on one team with Todd Whitestone in the 7th round. Mike Trout was long gone, so Sammy Reed, don't worry about shaming me for taking Wyatt Langford over Mike Trout. I never did that in any leagues, even though I have a lot of Wyatt Langford and 0 Mike Trout. And I only drafted him once at that sort of, I'll kind of classify like peak price on Langford as sort of like top 100 pick. I only paid that price once out of the, how many shares do I have? 1, 2, 3. I only did that at one of the 6 teams. And 4 of the 6 teams, like I was getting him after pick 150. So, that was kind of the range where I was most comfortable with him. Now, I just think he's pressing. He's not like he's still showing a good eye at the plate. He's faster than I even thought he was. And I think he's trying to kind of like produce for his team and every at bat a little too hard right now. But he's not hitting the ball as hard as he did in the minors, or even in spring training. I think he's gonna get on a heater at some point, as long as he keeps getting to play. It's probably not a guarantee that he keeps getting to play if he doesn't heat up soon. So this one's close for me. Like, it's a prospect. Like, of course, you have to know that this is in the range of outcomes, right? Like, even the best prospects can just completely suck right away. Yeah. Like I was at a conference, I was at First Pitch Florida, and people were asking about Wyatt Langford. I was like, I'm drafting him, but I don't want to try to talk any of you into drafting him at the price. Like, you have to be really comfortable with it. If you're going to just be really pissed at this point in April, if he's hitting what he's hitting, then it's not for you. I definitely knew the potential downfalls there. So it's kind of like, I'm not surprised. It's just kind of annoying. It's just like, can you just do something, please?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to take the L. I'm going to double down on Langford, just given the price I was paying. If I had taken him, if I'd been loading up on him in the main event or something like that, then I would take the L based on the players that I would have passed on him for. But I think just given the price I paid, and I think what's in store for him over the next 5 months, I'm going to double down on Langford. But it's close. Like, I definitely recognize that it's not looking good so far.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned right in the beginning between him and Trout. So the main, that CLQ main, also I was talking about. I took Frankie Lindor in a second, and Adolis in round 5, which is a monster there. But I felt like I needed more speed. But in round 6, it was between Trout and Langford, and I went Trout. And right away, I'm like, oh shit, I probably could have used Langford's speed, right? So fast forward a month, we're sitting here with Trout having 5 steals and looking, perfectly great out there. And Langford doesn't have a homer or a steal. So it's just funny how that worked out. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm doubling down. I mean, he's doing enough. He's hitting enough. He's walking, I mean, I do think you're right. I think he's pressing a lot. I think it's coming, it's, it does take time for some of these guys, and we're seeing that with him, but it's just funny because, power and speed were like the two, attributes that were appealing about him, and he has no homers or steals. So it's just funny how that works out. But yeah, no, I think as long as he's still hitting enough, he's going to stay in this lineup, and that power and speed is going to come. I think he's, it's just a matter of time. So yeah, I'm doubling down.
I think the power has to come for it to, it's going to be a bad pick if he doesn't finish the year with 20 plus homers. And the stolen bases, I'm a little bit more worried about just because it's an attempts issue, right? Like,
he's not running. Yeah, he's not running. He ran the other night, right? He got caught stealing, but he's attempted 1 stolen base, right?
And that's kind of I think that's partly the team he's on, and there's guys who are having terrible seasons that have like 3 steals already. So
right, it's bizarre.
It's definitely a mindset out there, and that's. I definitely don't think Wyatt Langford stealing 15 bases this year. Like, I think get to double digits, I'd take that for sure. Yeah. I think it's more about just start banging doubles, start banging homers, get on a, hit like 350 for a month. That type of thing is kind of what I'm hoping for with him.
He's got 3 extra base hits on the season. 3.
Yeah, that's the press. Like, I don't think he's letting the game come to him. I think he's just kind of just trying to get it all back. But yeah, I mean, I like that. I like that we're both doubling down there on Langford. We'll see how well this holds up.
I think the fact that he's hitting, right? I mean, if he was hitting $160 right now, I'd be a lot more concerned. But I mean, he's doing enough just to stay in that lineup, so it gives me some optimism moving forward.
Okay, so I didn't get this guy in a ton of leagues relative to kind of how much I wanted him. But I've got Hunter Brown in 3 leagues. I loved that sort of pocket of Bryce Miller, Gavin Williams, and Hunter Brown. Fortunately, I did get some Bryce Miller, but 2/3 of that, not looking so good. I'll take the L on Hunter Brown easily right now. There's no sugarcoating the damage that he's done to everyone's ratios, and you can't get that back.
You had him in that line. I mean, I actually benched him for that start. I just had strong matchups elsewhere. You know, it's not like, you know, I saw the future or anything, but
I benched him
I
in
was
a 12. I had him in a 12. I benched him. I started him in my
15. 12. Yeah, that's what I was talking. 15. Yeah, there was no way you were benching him there. So yeah, rough.
I know Rob D did. I know he was talking about.
He benched him.
I think in most of his leagues he benched him because he saw underlying stuff he didn't like. I didn't have the luxury of really looking under the hood. You know, it was just kind of like I have to start. I'm like my next best option is easily worse than this. So
that's right. Like in the main, you're looking at, you know, what, 6 starters across 15, you know, 90 starters more or less are being, you know, in starting lineup. So to have the luxury of benching him prior to that start, you know, in a main event, that seems, if you did that, you know, that's all the power to you. But I would have thrown him out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said this before, but it's almost more rewarding to me when I make the right bench call on a pitcher than like any sort of like awesome streamer that works out. Like it's just so satisfying to have like a highly touted pitcher on your bench for a blow up outing.
Yeah, it's funny after that start because I had I think I have 200 run or one, either 1 or 2. Anyway, I saw Twitter blowing up. I'm like, oh my god, it was a day game, I think, right? Was it a day game? I forget, but I started scrolling through my teams. I went to the, you know, search player feature because I didn't even know what the hell team I had him on. And I see Hunter Brown. I scroll over, my heart's pounding. I'm like, oh my god! It was like it's, you know, it was, my heart was pounding, but it was like in slow motion as I'm scrolling across to see bench or, you know, P. Yeah. And I saw bench, and I'm like, oh man, just a huge relief. Yeah, I mean that start's gonna leave a hole for sure.
How glued to like the results and Twitter and stuff like that are you when things aren't going well? Like, I mean, it's easy to be on top of your standings and stuff when things are going well, but like I kind of like run from it. Like I don't want to see any of it. I'm just kind of like, I'm turning my computer off for the rest of the day. Not going on Twitter. Just gonna chill out and not think about baseball anymore. But do you just kind of like sit there and take it when it's not going well?
I'm probably somewhere in between. Like, you know, I play enough teams now where if I, you know, had 100 Brown on one team, okay, that team is screwed this week. But, you know, I might have another pitcher doing well on another team, and I'm like, all right, well, that team's rising now. So I think if you do, you know, just a couple teams and, you know, you have these guys on those teams, and it's, you know, it's really a Debbie Downer, right? But I think, you know, there's enough volume where it kind of, you know, I shrug it off for the most part. Now, if it's a guy that I have across a lot of teams that throws one of those starts, those clunkers, you'll see the belly flop GIF for sure. So, yeah, that's how you know I own a lot of that player. Anytime that GIF comes out, that's nice. He's well owned by the Gildz.
Yeah, we were talking about catchers earlier. One of the catchers I have the most shares of is Bo Naylor.
Yeah, you were high on him. I remember listening to you in the preseason. You were very high on him going in.
So, yeah, I'm taking the L on that. And I don't necessarily think he's going to suck the rest of the way. I think, like, I don't really plan on dropping him or anything like that. Unless the Guardians.
I don't know much. What's been his issues? I don't own. I have one share, I think. I haven't really paid too close attention to. I mean, he's not hitting at all. But I mean, outside of that, is he striking out too much?
Yeah, I mean the contact rate is down like 11% from last year.
Oh yeah, he is striking out a ton. 24 strikeouts and 66 plate appearances. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
But I still think I think he kind of figures it out to some degree. I don't think he's going to finish I think he's going to strike out less than 30% of the time the rest of the way, I guess is what I'll say. But I got to take the L on that because, I don't think I ever took Naylor over like Logan O'Hoppe or anything like that. But, I'm sure I took him over. I'm sure I took him over like Sal Perez probably in a couple spots, which is pretty nasty. I was kind of hoping that he would be the double-digit steals catcher, which is kind of a cheat code if you hit it right.
The speed hasn't translated at all. Even last year, 5 steals, 230 plate appearance. I mean, I'm not sure why, but he stole 20 bags in 2022. 118.
I mean, I was just hoping for like 12 steals,
12, yeah.
You get
even 15.
12 steals from your catcher, and then I was thinking like 20 to 25 homers. It is what it is, but taking the L on that, even though I'm not dropping in, it's just.
That was my next question. You're going to hold now. I wonder in those leagues you have them, what catcher alternatives in the 12s at least are out there. It might be a tougher call. I don't know. Plus, if you need speed, then again, he's not providing that. So, I mean, in these 12s, I always say too, I like, you want to hold on to guys with good pedigree and good prospects and whatnot. But if at a certain point, you can't just keep them in your lineup and just watch them tank, right? So, I don't know.
So,
catcher is a different animal though, too, right? So,
I looked it up. For NFBC, I've only got Naylor on 3 teams. 2 of those are draft and holds. One of them's my CLQ draft and hold. But the FAAB league I have him in is a pretty good OC team that I am co-managing with Todd. The best catchers available there are by ownership percentage: Ivan Herrera, Alejandro Kirk, Danny Jansen, Austin Wells.
Yeah.
I mean, are you dropping Bo Naylor for any of those guys?
I don't think so. I mean, if you need power, maybe, I'd look at Jansen. Herrera's getting a lot of playing time, though, even with Contreras playing. I mean, he's interesting.
I like Herrera. I'm surprised to see him available there, but I guess it is a 12.
That's a tough call there, I think, right now, because he's hitting and he's playing, so.
He's cooled off a little. He was really crushing it about a week to 10 days ago. I do really like the player though.
And Contreras has been banged up. He's been hurt a lot. I know he's playing through it now, right? I think he played today, but I feel like he's banged out. Like every day I read something on Wilson Contreras, but he seems to be playing every day still. So yeah. And
he's a good DH option. So I think they called up a third catcher not too long ago just so that they could get those both in the lineup a decent amount. So that'll be interesting.
I'd give Naylor another week, and if Herrera is still DHing or splitting time, getting 4 or 5 games, 4 games in a lineup, even I wouldn't be opposed to that. I mean, Bo Naylor, if we're waiting a while now to see something, and he's not really showing anything.
Well, he showed it was. I mean. It was a good finish to the season for him last year.
Right. It's been as a whole, yeah.
Taking the L on Bo Naylor, but fortunately, I've got like 3 times as many shares of his older brother than I do of him. So that's all right.
It's funny. I'm looking at my Bo Naylor team on my OC, and Herrera is also there. So I'll have the same decision as you after this week.
Well, and I don't know if it's like I don't think you can assume that you have the luxury of waiting a week to make the decision, right? Like someone could just pop Herrera this week. And then,
right. That's true.
Okay. So I was going to take the L on buying the over Piguero, but that one's so kind of, he was free basically. But I did not see I did not see him not winning the second base job because of Jared Triolo coming. So I'll take the L on that one. I've got 3 more here. Super easy L for me to take real quick. Matt Wallner.
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be just a dirt cheap 30 homer flyer. he's got just one of the best arms, if not the best arm of any right fielder, and he's got strong OBP skills. So I thought strong side platoon, easy drop if it doesn't work out, but awesome flyer, loaded up on Matt Wallner, dropped him everywhere now. So took that L. Now these next couple ones for me are a bit more interesting. So I loaded up on Parker Meadows. So my logic with Parker Meadows was he's by far their best defensive center fielder. He didn't really show any splits in the minors, lefty-righty splits in the minors. So he's going to play every day because of his defense in center field, and he'll lead off against righties. And that hasn't transpired per se, but I was looking it up, and Parker Meadows. So I think that my theory was not that bad, just in terms of the defense and the playing time, because Parker Meadows is hitting 086. He's got a 31 WRC plus. Like you can't be really any worse at the plate than Parker Meadows. And yet he's been worth the exact amount of wins above replacement as Matt Vierling, who's the other guy who's getting starts in center field, because he's that much better of a defender than Matt Vierling. So like, I think that part of it was correct. And, Parker Meadows has, like I said, you can't really be much worse than he's been, but he's still already got 2 homers and 3 steals. So like, I don't think the power speed part was that off base either, but he's just been so much worse as a hitter than I could have ever imagined. Now he's got a BABIP of 100. So
that bad.
But he's also got a strikeout rate of 39%. I mean, I think he's an interesting, like, if someone dropped him, I wouldn't be opposed in like a main event to picking him up. But I think I have to take the L on the preseason call just because it's gone so poorly. And, he was kind of one of my tentpole guys this year. Like he was going to be like my Ha-Seong Kim this year, like the guy that just out of nowhere goes 15, 30 and just really, really helps you out in Roto. And even if he really turns it around from here, that's not happening. Like he can't make up for all the damage he's done to my batting average.
0.086. Yeah, that's hard. That's hard to do. Yeah. I mean, we don't even know how much more time he'll have, right? I mean, I would assume they send him down if this continues, right?
They're playing him a bunch. I don't know, man. Like they would have to go to they'd basically have to make Matt Vierling and like Wensiel Perez their center fielders. Like they don't have anyone else. Like that was part of that was like, he's going to have to play. They don't have anyone else, and they don't have anyone else.
Yeah. Boy. Yeah. I don't own him, and it wasn't by choice. I liked him a lot too in the preseason. It's just, I was taking pitchers mostly where he was going, but yeah, I mean, that wasn't a guy I was against taking, but yeah, struggled. To say he's struggling is an understatement. 0.086. I mean, I assume he's on your bench right now, or are you just doubling down on him in your lineup also?
I hope I'm gonna have to look that up. I think I've got him benched pretty much everywhere, but I should check to see.
He did have a couple of games recently. I saw right where he showed something a little bit. Showed some life. I've got him
benched in 3 out of 5 leagues. The 2 spots where he's not benched, one of them's my worst FAAB team, and one of them's my most depleted DC roster, where it really wasn't that hard of a call to start him there, which is kind of sad. But benched. I've got him on the majority of my benches, but
Oh yeah, it was. I'm looking at his game log now. It was last week, back-to-back games, 3 for 6, had a steal, had a homer, RBI, obviously, and that's where you might have thought he's turned a corner, but since then he's like 1 for 20.
Yeah,
Turner.
I mean, I try to look at the playing time. Like, I mean, he's been in the lineup every single day. Like that's
Yep, he is.
That's
But this is also one of those guys where if you drop him, someone picks him up for $6 and then he turns it on, and you're watching Meadows go on a tear right after he destroyed your team for 5 weeks. So yeah, it's a tough game.
But I would take it because of the fact I've got him in more DCs than FAAB leagues. So like that's one where I wouldn't, it would suck just because of the stolen bases. Like I still think he could steal 20 steals the rest of the way, but
his brother too. I mean, maybe the Meadows, there's something in there where he was a huge prospect. He didn't live up to that. I know he had what do you have, like vertigo-ish? He had some concussion, vertigo.
Yeah, he had I think he had to see his sports psychologist. And
I mean, he had he was a big pedigree kid too, so it'd be a shame if both the brothers freaking tanked. So
that would be a shame. Okay, my last guy, I wasn't like out there vocally saying like don't draft this guy, but I also had him ranked pretty low on my prospect rankings relative to where some places had him ranked, and that's Michael Busch. I would have probably bet on him being a quad A guy coming into the year. Obviously knew he could hit the ball hard and put up big numbers at AAA, but
what was your reasoning behind that, right? He's got good power, right?
Just 25-year-old repeating AAA, not being able to offer any defensive value really, like just kind of checked some boxes for me. And then I like the prospects the Dodgers got back in that deal. I don't know if the Dodgers would do that deal if they thought he was going to turn into this, but is this a situation where do you have a lot of Busch?
Yeah, well, I didn't, and I picked him up in a bunch of spots before that homer streak occurred. So I think I have 3 shares maybe. I just saw he was getting everyday playing time. He showed a little pop, and right after I picked him up, he went like, how many games in a row did he hit a home run? 5 or 6 games straight. I mean, he's looking good. Power. I like that lineup a lot too now, and with those injuries there, you saw Bellinger too. He's got a cracked rib now. I mean, this kid's going to be a mainstay in that lineup, all season. So I think, you're going to see 30 homers, right? I mean, that's within reach, I feel like. And it'll be a nice corner infielder, nice first baseman if you have a Casas or something right now. So, that's a guy that you should be pretty stoked to have on your roster.
Well, the proverbial listener should be stoked to have on the roster. I am not stoked to have him on my roster because I don't have him on any rosters. But I will take the L on Michael Busch. I took the L on Busch, Liover Peguero, Matt Wallner, Parker Meadows, Bo Naylor, Hunter Brown, Elly De La Cruz, and then I am doubling down on Mike Trout's fragility and Wyatt Langford showing what he's got the rest of the way. Anyone that you want to kind of give a shout out to that you were to this point in the season very wrong about?
Let's see. I'm not really wrong too much, James. That's
I know.
A tough question. First off, on Wallner, I still think he's gonna. I'm still holding him in one of my mains. I don't know. I don't know. I think he's a guy that could come up and just start mashing again. I don't get don't get why he's not playing right now.
So you held him after he got sent down?
Yeah, I did. I mean, that team is depleted in power. So I'm just hoping, he gets called back up soon. Yeah, I'm trying to think of.
I thought that I just didn't even consider holding him because I thought even if he got the call again, I assumed I would be the highest person on him in whatever league, and it wouldn't be that expensive to add.
Oh, really? I mean, he was pretty highly owned prior, right? I mean, he was in the 80-90% percentile of ownership. So, I mean, if he gets called up.
Can you look up what his ownership is right now? I don't have him in any FAAB teams.
Yeah, I'll tell you one sec. So he's owned in the main. Oh, okay. I might be one of the only two teams holding him right now. 5%. Okay. Yeah. Again, that team is really struggling with the power, so I get it. And I just lost Bellinger too, and I see Zach Geloff is hurt. That's the first time I'm seeing that. You know what happened to him?
I don't know.
Late scratch Wednesday. All right, that's good to see. So yeah, he might be off my team on Sunday then. So let me see. Let me look at my player shares. Thairo Estrada, that's a guy I have a lot of James, and he hasn't been good. He had that 2 or 3 game spurt. I think it was over maybe last weekend, I want to say, where he had a monster weekend. He's got no steals right now, which is hard to believe. Hit 230, 3 homers. I mean, it hasn't been terrible, but you're drafting that guy to for a good 20 steals, and he doesn't have any yet.
Yeah. I've got a couple Thairo. Like I like way back early in draft season, I liked Edman a little bit more than Estrada, but then I kind of pivoted to Estrada in some spots after Edman got hurt. But yeah, the whole point was the speed and the eligibility. Like I don't care about the rest of the stuff with him.
Yeah. Another guy I have a lot of here, India, who's been terrible. I mean, he's got no homers. He does have 2 steals, hitting 174. I mean, he's blessed with playing time, and I was so happy because I had him in a ton of spots.
Yeah, you were right about the idea of him finding his way into the lineup.
That was about it. Yeah. So I don't know. I think I'm taking an L there. I don't know what your thoughts on him are. It's just
it's tough. It's tough with a guy like that who was so cheap, especially since you actually ended up being right about him playing.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's kind of a not. It's not that sexy of an L, but it's probably just a boring L.
And leading off with that lineup, playing every day, it's just so underwhelming. I don't know. And then if I had to pick another guy, it's probably Alejandro Kirk. Because he was the last guy in that catcher 2 range for me where I was like, I want to at least grab him. He's like my cutoff. So I have a lot of him, and he's just been brutal. And he's getting dropped in OCs left and right. I mean, I don't blame anybody. He's done nothing. And now you got Danny Jansen back. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm taking an L there because I do think, I mean, the guy's a hitter. He's a good base hitter. So, I mean, he's hitting 172. I don't know what his BABIP. What
200.
What is it?
200.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, he's going to start hitting. The power, though, is more concerning. He's got no homers. And I don't know if you saw the Gildz homer scrub derby by chance.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, you haven't seen this? I took so there's like 20 guys on this list. It's on my Twitter, but it's 20 draft relevant guys who were drafted fairly high in all fantasy drafts that were homerless.
Oh.
0 homers. Julio Rodriguez was on there prior. He hit one last night, but so out of those 20 guys, I ran a contest where basically you have to pick the last guy to hit a home run out of these 20 guys and the date he hits it. And I the prize is a co-managed DC next year. So if whoever gets the closest to the player and the date wins DC next year. So I just threw it out there. I didn't know how many people would like it. All of a sudden, Twitter just freaking blowing up, and I just see like 100 replies. I had to cut it off for the first games yesterday because if I left it open, there'd be 10,000 replies on that thing. So anyway, Kirk was a very popular pick in that contest. It will be interesting to see. Buxton was on there. He's off the list now, and I think there was one more. We lost 3 guys yesterday, but
anyway. two things about that. I mean, people just love free stuff, so I'm not surprised about that. And then B, the Twitter algorithm is just so messed up. Like, how do I not see that? I'm on there every day.
Yeah, it was blowing up. I'm surprised.
I retweeted it. No interest in it. I've seen them multiple times, and yet I don't see this.
I retweeted. I put like a little rule set together. It just all kind of came to me out of nowhere. And I'm like, this is kind of a cool idea. And then I got like all these DMs from people being like, "This is amazing. I love this contest." I'm like, this might be like an annual Gildz home run scrub derby, and people seem to like it. So we'll see how it goes.
A lot of work for you.
One of the rules was you had to reply. You had to make your entry on that Twitter post because I wasn't searching for stuff here or there. So if you didn't reply, there's actually 2 of them. If you didn't reply to one or the other, it didn't count. And the cutoff, anybody that entered their entry post game blocks yesterday or Monday rather, don't count either. So we're cut off.
Well,
by the way, who would you pick? Let me just pull that up real quick just to see get a James Anderson guess.
Oh, okay.
All right, hold on a sec.
I could probably track it.
I'll tell you who we lost. I've been tweeting a lot. Hold on, I'm gonna scroll down here. All right, here we go. All right. So it was a 0 home run club. There was 20 guys in it. We lost Julio yesterday. We lost Buxton, and Neto homered today, so he's gone. So I'm going to just read off some names to you, James. Give me your pick.
I've got it up.
You got it up. Okay.
Well,
the rules out. You can't be sent down, right? So that deterred a lot of people from Colt Keith. That was one of the rules.
Okay, and Walker doesn't count anymore.
Yeah, he's out. Walker's out now. Yeah.
So I think I think there's 3 very strong candidates here. I think
I have one. I'll tell you mine too. Go ahead.
I think Jonathan India and Alejandro Kirk are very strong candidates. And then I think Jose Abreu is a strong candidate because once you show a skill, you own it type of thing. Like he showed us last year that he's capable of going an extremely long time without hitting a home run.
Yeah. But then he hit like 18, right?
Yeah. and then I ended up with him on a few teams because I was like, all right, he's back. Like he's definitely going to just hit in the middle of that lineup. So whatever. All right. Well, I've taken up too much of your time. Andrew, thank you very much.
Oh, you didn't make a pick. Did you make a pick, James?
No, right. I'm going Jose Abreu.
Oh, you're going Jose Abreu. All right. I didn't think you actually made the selection. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a very popular pick in this thing.
But I didn't get it in time, so we won't be co-managing a DC.
My pick, not that it mattered, I think I replied, it was Henry Davis, just because I think he'll be I don't think they're going to send him, which I could be wrong. But he just looks pretty bad. And I don't know.
I think he'll hit a mistake out. He's too much of like a softball type of just grip it and rip it type of guy. I don't know, but not a bad pick. Anything you want to mention to the listeners before we wrap this up?
Thanks again, James, for having me on. I'm always happy to jump on with you and talk fantasy. So, and I appreciate all that you do at RotoWire, and I listen to all your pods too. So, thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining me. This was great. And thanks to everyone listening. Remember to subscribe if you're listening or if you're watching on YouTube. And this podcast is brought to you by Prize Picks. Use the promo code ROTOPOD for a 100% deposit match.